Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Ryan Kenny to the show. Ryan is the founder of Christmas Tree Hugger. Christmas Tree Hugger is an adjustable tree pole cover that helps to make your artificial Christmas tree look better by hiding the fuzzy, fake looking green base at the bottom of your tree. And today I want to ask Ryan a few questions about his entrepreneurial story and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trep Talks, Ryan.
No problem.
Perfect.
Happy to help out. Always fun.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you on Saturday morning. So yeah, very interested to know about your startup story. How did you get idea for this product, Christmas Tree Hugger, and how do you know that there would be a market for this product?
So, I mean, I'm just kind of the person who constantly has too many strange and odd ideas just bubbling up on a regular basis. My biggest challenge is usually ignoring 99% of them and like picking which ones I want to chase because I tend to get distracted with things. But this was just one where my wife and I, obviously, like we've been putting up Christmas trees for a long time. We just celebrated our 14th year anniversary a couple of days ago, and there's been a lot of trees in our lives. Many of those had been real trees, and at some point we decided to, for convenience and traveling and all those normal busy life things, switch over to a fake tree. And just were kind of disappointed and honestly curious about why artificial trees tend to, and it's a small detail, but why they have like this stuff going on at the bottom.
Mm,
And it's just one of those little things. I have a design background, so it just bothered me from a design sense in general. And I think it's one of those things where like once you notice it, you can't really unsee it too easily. It's just one of those aesthetic things that bother you. It's almost like a pet peeve, but once someone calls it out, you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of pretty ugly down there. And the tree usually looks so good everywhere else. So I was complaining about it, and she just said, if you hate it so much, why don't you just fix it? And I looked at it and I was like, okay, sure. So I came up with a rudimentary quick fix that looked really good. And we kind of went through a holiday season, and friends came over and saw the tree here and there throughout the season and just started commenting like, oh, is that a real tree? And I was like, no, it's fake. And they're like, oh my gosh, I thought it was real. And talking about that bottom piece, and they asked if they could have some. So I started making just like little one-offs for friends and family, and then decided to throw it up on Etsy because that's such a good platform for simple DIY maker type of stuff, and was putting these things together by hand in a different method than they're created now because I've kind of outsourced it production wise. But that was doing really well on Etsy, and the reviews were consistently 5 out of 5 stars every time. Like nobody was really giving it anything lower for the most part. So that's when I kind of knew. It was just like, okay, well, this thing, very niche, but a really high degree of positive feedback from the people who do decide they want it. So I was like, what the heck? Let me just try and see if I can bootstrap this thing and make it into a real product, which I've always kind of wanted to do anyway. So I went from like a handmade, pretty basic DIY style product to something a little more finished. And I took my design sense, and I wanted to take something that doesn't really exist and make a package design that makes it so cute and fun that like it's kind of demands attention on a shelf type of thing. So I created a character called the Christmas Tree Hugger that represents the brand. And it's almost like I wanted to invent a problem because people generally, a lot of people just don't notice it, but once they do, it bothers them. So I figured, let me invent this problem that's going to take some marketing and like a certain strategy to even surface this problem. And I will have the only solution for it. So that was kind of like a nice little space I wanted to play in. I was like, if I can invent this problem and get people on board and I have the only solution, then I think I have myself a winner. So that was kind of the plan I set out to tackle, and it worked out pretty well and pretty quickly. And things just have consistently come together. The only problem is it's so seasonal that you lose a lot of steam in between on the off season. You have this like little small window of 1 to 3 months to make it all happen. And then anything you learn, you have to adjust for and wait a very long period of time to actually implement. So the learning curve is fast and furious for a small amount of time, but the adjustment period takes a long time to actually set it into action. Whereas like other companies, you can figure it out month by month or week by week and keep tweaking, A/B testing, and it just evolves quicker. So this is like a slow evolve, but nonetheless, super fun product. Started just from a thought and boredom, really. I had nothing to do at work at the day job for a few weeks. So I focused heavily on experimenting, and just it kind of opened up little possibilities down the line.
And that's very interesting. And I want to talk to you more about the seasonal aspect of business and how seasonal businesses work. But it's very interesting to me that you started with such a simple idea, where I think most people who probably use like this artificial Christmas tree, they probably have noticed this thing, it doesn't look good, and those who are a little bit motivated, they actually try to figure out a way, like a home built solution. But never, nobody, or more, not most people, think about creating a business out of it,
Yeah.
because they probably, the first instinct would be this is so easy that if I can just get something from Walmart or Home Depot and just put it together, and it hides the base of it. But you actually took that idea and actually wanted to test it out on Etsy, which is really interesting to me. So you didn't go to eBay, or you chose Etsy. Was there why didn't you go to eBay?
I didn't go to eBay because my product was pretty rudimentary and handmade the way I was doing it. Like, it involved glue and prints.
Okay.
So I had to like physically cut things with a bandsaw in my shop in the basement. So it just didn't have that production polish that would be necessary for like a main platform provider. But Etsy's perfect for that stuff, and totally acceptable to test the validity and the concept of an idea, right? Like, you could always tweak your design to be less crafty and handmade, but I just wanted to test the pure concept of, is this even an idea that someone's interested in paying for,
So at what point in, like, did you make like 1,000 sales where you realized, okay, this idea has a potential? Like, at what point did you think, when you put the product on Etsy, that you realized, okay, this has a potential where I can take another step forward?
Oh boy, the point I realized that was when I had the idea at first. I was like, okay, this probably should be more than just a handmade item, because I couldn't make enough of them fast enough on Etsy. So
Okay.
at that, I'm limited by my own hands. That's sign number one, time to scale. Sign number two, interest level wise, I started playing with cold calls here and there. And literally the first one I did, I think my family and I were on our way to vacation, and we stopped by a Kroger to get some supplies. I walked in and talked to the store manager and told her about what I was doing. I have this Christmas product. I think it would be really cool for your aisle during the holidays. Is there anyone I can talk to? And she just gave me like the number for the local buyer. And I called her up the first time, and she basically, she didn't place an order on the phone right there, but the interest level was insanely high. And we continued a few conversations after that. And shortly after, I was figuring out how to make this thing for like a large scale order for Kroger grocery stores in the Southeast, which wasn't the best store to get into in retrospect, but I'm not gonna knock an opportunity. Like, I'm gonna try to make the best out of that and make it work. But just there, like the interest level from that first phone call, and yeah, that's luck. I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and my personality would have continued to push me to like try cold calling other places. But when I did have that success so quickly, I really went off on a tear to do more of that. And that's kind of how it progressed to me also doing the same process to other buyers. So I reached out to Home Depot. We got into there online only. And I reached out to QVC, which was an awesome one, because they also were extremely interested and excited about the product. They're always looking for new things. And that's the thing, like, there's not a lot of reinvention in that Christmas space. It's such like a historical, traditional area that it's not often when something comes around that kind of like switches it up like that very often. So QVC let me on the show, obviously, and that's where things just started to take off once I started getting that PR stuff and things started laying out that way.
Just out of curiosity, like, what does this Christmas tree market look like in the US? Like, how many, do you know the the percentage of people who actually purchase like a real tree versus the people who go out and buy these
Yeah,
fake trees?
it's more than half, with fake trees and rising steadily year by year. I'm interested to see what happens during COVID-19. Are people gonna just do the Christmas tree shopping thing online and buy a lot more of these artificial trees? Probably. And we've already seen a higher demand than ever before in the off season this year since COVID-19. We never get inquiries for sales in like the hottest months of the year where you wouldn't even think about buying a holiday product. And we haven't sold a ton. I wouldn't expect to sell a ton in the off season, but they have been steadily going out the door all year. There hasn't really been a break, that's never happened before. So I think this year is set to be a pretty big year for us.
So one thought that comes to my mind is, given that this is, I'm sure the companies that create these artificial trees, there's only probably a handful of them in the U.S. And now I think you have your patents for this product also. Is it not a worthwhile thing just to, instead of doing the whole business of creating, manufacturing it and selling it through e-commerce and different channels and the whole process of it, to try to just license your idea to some of these people who are creating the tree and sell it directly to them, and you basically sit back and cash your check every year?
Well, here's the thing. We already are sitting back and cashing the check for the most part, because how we have it set up is it's highly automated. So there's not much work to do on our end at this point. And we've absolutely gone down that road. I've talked to several people about this, and we've come pretty close to actually striking deals. But at the end of the day, to get the royalties deal that I would want, that deal hasn't come up yet, because I'm just not willing to give away that much percentage of profit at this point with such a new product. It's something I would consider down the line, and I have talked to people about it, and we've come close. But so far, still, I feel like we're still in a better position to keep control of the product ourselves right now.
Okay. Can you take me to the early days of the design? So you created a prototype that was your own creation, and it was handmade. But when you got this order from a bigger retailer.
Can you hear that, by the way? Is that bothering
No.
Okay. Someone's
No,
back.
I think it's okay. It's okay. I don't hear it too bad. It's not bad. So when you got this order from the retailer, how did you transition from your handmade design to going to something more mass production? Was there did you have to get like a product designer and have it more professionally designed? What was that process, and how did you go from there to finding a manufacturer who can create this thing?
So I look for like products. I figured out, I went actually and walked through Walmart's and Target's and various other stores. And first I went on like a materials search, and I had some ideas in my head, but I wanted to literally go through aisles and just see the things and take a mental catalog of what was out there that would make sense for this product to be created from. So once I found the material that I thought was right, I also paid attention to, what are some similar functionality products, things that like wrap around things, and how are they designed and how are they out there? Is it glue? Is it Velcro? Is it zipper? Is it snaps? Like all those different things. So explored that with various products I'd seen in stores as well. So this is very like one-on-one personal walkthroughs type of stuff. And I landed on a product that I thought was similar and sourced that product. I found someone who made that specific type of product in mass production on Alibaba.com. Okay. I'd found a few providers that did things like that, and then gave them my plans based on what they were doing to like shift it for a product like mine. Asked them if they could do it. First of all, the ones that said they could do it, I provided them with additional measurements and specs, and I got samples. Some of them were terrible. Some of them were really terrible, and some of them were decent. And I ultimately just landed on the one that I thought was the best quality and was the easiest to work with, where the English language was the least amount of barrier as well, because that kind of hung things up a few times depending on who I was talking to, and picked a company that I thought was the good fit. And that's kind of how the production thing started. And from there, they helped me to find someone that would source the actual packaging that surrounds the product. But I designed all of the art that goes on the bark. I designed that artwork of the bark. I designed the shape of the package, the inspiration for the design, the inserts, the colors, all that branding stuff. That's me, but that's my wheelhouse. So that was easy. And I have a design, marketing, art direction background and creative direction.
And you're still working with the same manufacturer since you started, or did you have to?
We actually just switched this year to
Okay.
a new manufacturer. Yeah.
And was that just a reason because there was something like they were not able to fulfill your demand or something?
They were able to fulfill the demand. I felt that they were taking advantage of us with price points, and I knew I could start a new relationship knowing what I had known working with these people over the last few years. We could probably start from the same ground zero, and they might respect the relationship a little bit more. I started to feel like a lack of trust with what they were telling me, and I was right. Once I started looking into it, I was able to get exactly what I wanted for the price that I wanted it pretty easily.
So I want to talk a little bit about the whole intellectual property side of things.
Sure.
So I know when I did this some research, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you have your patents already, the design and the utility patents, and also trademarks and things like that. When I speak to some of the other entrepreneurs, I think that when people are generally getting started, the responses that I get is, having the whole application process for the patent and going through the whole process of the time and the effort that it requires to get a patent is too high, as opposed to, me just starting the business and being the first one, and, just the velocity of moving forward. Yeah. So a lot of the times people let go of this idea of getting a patent, and they focus on the business, and maybe the patent comes later. And a lot of the times the reasoning also is that, if someone copies you in one way or another, the way to enforce your patent, like going after them legally, will be a very challenging and costly process. Yeah. So I'm very curious to know that, given that your product is relatively simple, people can probably make like different tweaks to it and come with a different version of it. What was the reasoning behind to get the patent, and what kind of protection do you think that you get from these patents?
The protection is really good, actually, because we have, and it's hard to get patents. You're right. It is a pain in the butt. It's expensive. I have a good friend of mine who I've known for many years, who's a business attorney. He's a prominent, well-established business attorney at that. And he expressed interest in just my story as things were going on through the years. So there was a point in time where I realized, I'm really good at these things. Legal stuff and numbers is never going to be one of them, and that's his strong suit. So I took him on as a partner, and that's when we really started attacking the patent situation, because that's his wheelhouse. So that actually alleviated the concerns you expressed as a new entrepreneur trying to wrangle that, because he was that person who could wrangle that very easily and understood it fully. He also had, and he's not a patent attorney, but he works with them often, and he has a really good one that gave this thing amazing focus. The guy liked what he could do with the product, with the patents so much. He actually wanted to be a partner as well, and we didn't let that happen. But the fact that he asked that was pretty telling, that this was going to be a pretty ironclad situation that he liked so much that he wanted a piece of the pie. So yeah, we have the design and the utility. And what's nice about those is that the utility is written in a way that's very broad, which patents should be, where it's any type of closure that connects, right? And then what that doesn't cover from a utility standpoint, the design section covers a ton as far as like the aesthetic end result of making something look like a real tree bark is where that comes in. So like between those two, it's a really, really good protection. And we're stoked about that. That's a little bit of a happy accident that the product just ended up being that easy to protect, but I'm glad we have it. And it actually wasn't that hard for us, fortunately, because of those connections. And that's where like those little luck things come in. There's a luck aspect to it, but you have to see the opportunity and take advantage of the luck sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I could have known he was a lawyer and just glazed over and never pursued that. But, you just got to work the connections you have and build the bridges from point A to point B where you see them.
But just the To play the devil's advocate a little bit, let's say that, someone else or the Chinese manufacturer that you were working with before, maybe, they start selling your item, which they're very adept at making at this point. Maybe that they change the print of it or something, modify the design a little bit. Would it be worth it for you? This is just a hypothetical situation. Like, would it be worth it for you to go after someone like a Chinese manufacturer, or even if someone is in the US, wouldn't it be like a big legal cost to do something like that?
I don't know that we'd go after them, but what we would do is bring that information to the platforms. And like where we sell, that's a no-no. So if we have established documentation that says they're infringing on XYZ, and I give that to like another platform, then it gets easier for them to at least prohibit them from selling it. So, and if they can't sell it, then they're not going to make the money they need to make. So, I mean, that's huge. Like, you need to be on certain channels to sell large volumes, and those channels would be easy to come to with that information to help block that person from doing something like that.
Okay. Now, when I was doing the research, I read somewhere that initially, to get some of the feedback and things like that, you went out to trade shows and things like that, and you actually paid people some money and gave them the product and tried to get feedback.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that process and how that was useful for you?
That was super useful, because that let us know like how many trees they had, if they were interested in like a brown bark or like a birch versus like a candy cane type of texture. And what we learned was, from that exact thing, we actually learned that this was not really something we wanted to pursue, but people were absolutely interested in, this and this. We did that at trade shows a little bit. It wasn't paid at trade shows, but we did ask a lot of questions at the trade shows. Where we actually ended up paying people was, I would go to friends' garage sales and show up with my product, and they're already there like with a couple bucks cash trying to buy knickknacks and stuff. So it was like, hey, we'll give you $5 at this garage. They gave us permission to like set up at the front of the driveways and things like that. Give you $5 to like review this product. We had an online survey through an app on the iPad, and they'd fill it out. We'd give them $5, and then they go to garage sale and spend it on the garage sale. So it worked out for everybody, and we got some valuable information out of that.
So the kind of feedback you were looking for was just the print of it, if they would be willing to buy this product at a store, those kind of...
Yeah, things like that. Just the stuff that, like I said, we could eventually get to and figure out. But by the time you figure it out, the season's over. I have to wait a whole year to implement it. So that just speeds up the process in the beginning, especially where like you need to make a few key decisions that will change the future of your business rather quickly. And sometimes you can't afford to wait a whole year to learn that. Like, you just want to learn it as fast as possible. So focus groups and surveys are great for that. And early on in the company, I didn't have the cash to focus on like an actual professional focus group. So that was the idea that I landed on, like a hack almost, to kind of reach out to people who were having garage sales that I knew, or ask them if they wanted to have a garage sale. And a lot of people just do, they don't get around to it. And I was like, hey, if you're going to do that, let me sit out front and ask people some questions. I'll give them some money to like spend on your garage sale. So that worked out pretty well.
I think that's a very interesting point. And, that whole guerrilla approach of going after the people, your target market. And I think your product is more general in terms of, a lot of people, general public who use Christmas trees would be willing to use it. But anyone, I think, even if there's a niche product, I think people, and I suppose you would recommend it also, is people should go find where those people are hanging out. And I think the best kind of feedback people can get is like face-to-face, one-on-one. And a lot of times it's people are hesitant on doing that kind of a thing or making a phone call, and they want to do this like, Facebook ads and things like that. But would you recommend it's always a good approach, and maybe even a less expensive approach, to actually try to find people in person and try to get that feedback one-on-one?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the cash that you want to invest into Facebook, that's wonderful. But there's something about that face to face that's always better. It's also like the same thing with cold calls. You can generate leads multiple ways, but something about hearing that person's voice, and especially if it's a video talk like this, that face to face interaction um, brings out a different degree of seriousness for the questions, and people start to think about it differently. I feel like an online survey is going to be, the questions would be answered slightly different than if you just gave someone $5 to go shopping at a garage sale and like you had a personal interaction with them. Like they're probably going to be more vested and honest with the answers they're giving to you, you know?
Now, I want to talk to you about a little bit about financing in the beginning. I know you did quite a few different things. I know there was an Indiegogo campaign that you ran,
Yeah.
and I think there was a small goal for that. Could you share, like, did you invest some of your personal money in the beginning? What were some of the initial?
Somehow I managed to get around that. The whole time I was starting this up, my goal was to be frugal with my personal savings, and I was willing to invest a lot of my time to make it work, but I wanted to bootstrap it with some other ways. And that was the way that I didn't need that much. That's the thing. Like what I needed wasn't a huge amount. It's not like this crazy tech project or something that involves all these different molds, and it's pretty simple stuff. So it made so much sense for me to just do the Indiegogo approach. And that was more than enough to get my first batch to actually start with. And once you get the first batch, any profits from that were easily redistributed to developing things further down the line as we progressed. So, I mean, yeah, got a little bit lucky there in just having a simple product. It's a double-edged sword, though. There's not many places I could take it, and it's very limited seasonality-wise, right? So I'm paying for it ways, but you can't have it all sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've mentioned seasonality a couple of times. Is it, do you think people should pursue businesses that are seasonal? Of course, at the end of the day, I would assume that, if overall you're profitable, then I think, and if your goal is not, and I don't know, like what, I guess it would depend on someone's personal goals on, what kind of, how big a business someone is looking to build. What are some of your pros and cons that you think, of this kind of a business, like a seasonal business?
Pros are time. I mean, once we get our decisions made for the year, it's really just a few weeks of going back and forth with my business partner about our plans and goals. They're not that hard to set in action, and once the season goes, it is pretty automated at this point. So that time that I put up in the beginning that I was willing to trade off for maybe investing my own money, it's kind of reversed now, where like I'm getting a lot of that time back, and this thing is pretty easy breezy, hands off as far as maintenance. But as far as any like plans to take over the world and create a huge giant juggernaut business, is it possible? Sure, I'm sure maybe I could do it one day, and maybe somebody else could do it better, but it's never really been all about that. It was more for fun and like a personal bullet check off. Like I want to make my own product type of thing in the beginning, and it's gone really well. And I've had some amazing opportunities that have been searched for myself, and some have just come to me out of a little bit of luck. But yeah, the pros and cons are like that time versus money, really. If you got a non-seasonal product, your opportunity to make more money is pretty high, but you're also going to be a lot more time consumed throughout the entire year, where something like this, you're probably going to not make as much. There are some things that are seasonal that are they have insane sales volume wise, which one day maybe this could be that for 2 or 3 months a year, and we are getting better each year, so I got my fingers crossed on that. But time wise, very very minimal impact, so that's the biggest pro for the seasonal as far as this is concerned.
Shark Tank. Can you share a little bit about, what was that process of getting on, preparation, and was it more like you wanted to get on and it would give you this, mass exposure so that you would be able to make more sales, or was it more of a strategic decision of actually going out for funding?
No, that was always about, that was my free Super Bowl commercial. That's
Okay.
how I pitched it to myself out loud to other people. I was like, this is my Super Bowl commercial, like for free.
Okay.
And I always, at the trade shows and things like that, I would tell people before it even happened, I'd be like, you know, we're going to try to get on Shark Tank. So like, keep an eye out for us. And before I even tried, somehow the producers had seen the product online. And I think they actually found it on Indiegogo, which is crazy. They just saw the video on Indiegogo. They're always looking for new ideas for segments of the show. And the producer, I just got a random email from a producer at Shark Tank one day. And I didn't believe it was true. I can't tell you all the details because there's some things I'm just not allowed to talk to based on the contract I sold. But from the email address it came to, it wasn't apparent that it was 100% Shark Tank contact.
Okay.
And I have a friend of mine who was a little bit of a pain in my butt back then, and I thought he was pranking me. So
Okay.
I came this close to not even responding to it, which man, that would have sucked if I just deleted that email. I was like, man, this guy is really just trying to get under my skin. But I responded to it. It was real after the first response that was apparent when they responded back to me. And then we set up a phone call, me and the producer. And we just talked about how Christmas is a tough time of year for them to find something that's different for their show. So this was a no-brainer for them. And they gave me all the packet of information, the questions, the processes to go through. At any point in the process, this thing could have fallen apart up to the very, very end. It didn't. It was a great experience. I got my butt handed to me. I literally coached myself to get ready to have my butt handed to me because this happened so early on. Like we were so new still, like the numbers just weren't there to be that impressive. And I knew Kevin was going to just come at me with his Hurricane Kevin storm. And he did. And I have thick skin. I always have. I used to do door-to-door sales, and I do a lot of pitching and proposals for my job on a daily basis. I hear a lot of no's, and I get a lot of barriers that I have to break through. So that wasn't an issue. But man, as far as publicity, I mean, if anyone ever gets an opportunity to get on there, even if you think your stuff is not like up to par, just do it, because no matter what, that many eyeballs on your stuff, no matter how that goes, is going to work out for you. You'll be able to spin that in a way that makes you some money for sure.
Yeah, I think it probably has probably opens a lot of opportunities in terms of press and things like that. But did you also, after airing of that episode, did you see a huge bump in sales?
Oh yeah, for sure. There was. I mean, and it's instant, right? It can be better if also, this is another like seasonal thing, because of when that airs and the seasonality of the product. It's like a really tough timeline to like make it hit perfect when it airs. So that wasn't spot on, but even so, like the sales were instant. They were nonstop, and the phone was vibrating with the alerts for sales. It was like just moving on its own, like it had legs for several days. So that was awesome.
And I want to ask
reruns too. Like there'll be a day randomly in the summer sometimes where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just sold a ton of these things. Then I realized, okay, yeah, Shark Tank just re-aired. So that's nice. Okay. It's evergreen in that way, where it just gets replayed on and on and on. So you're slowly building the audience bigger and bigger and bigger. And the best thing about it, like I mentioned before, this all goes back to the beginning where I was like, I have to invent this problem in a way. I just need people to see it, because once they see it, they can't unsee it. Yeah. And what that show does now is, even if we don't get sales from it, what it does is it just makes people aware of like their tree is ugly on the bottom. It's just a simple fact, and it might bother them and it might not, but now they know.
Yeah. QVC.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in knowing how does one get on QVC, because if I understand correctly, they have a huge audience base, and I think anyone who gets on QVC like sees a huge sales growth. Could you share a little bit about how did you get on QVC? What is that process like of pitching on QVC, and your experience with that?
If I remember correctly, it's been a little bit now. I had gone to LinkedIn and typed in buyers QVC, and I found a few names, and then I called reception at QVC and I asked to be connected to those people. And for each of those people, I left a painfully long pitch of my product, where after I left the message, you were like, wow, that was way too long. I probably blew that.
Okay.
But the next day after I did that, I got a call from one of the buyers, and she wanted to hear more about the project. And I remember I was in a parking garage on the top level when she called me back. And I live in Atlanta, and there was a day where one of the bridges in Atlanta caught on fire, and it was just burning down. And I'm sitting in this parking lot watching this bridge burn down and talking to QVC. And like, as this thing is being destroyed here, my QVC opportunity is like rising. And it's just this really cool conversation where I just knew right there this was gonna work out, and I was gonna get on that show based on the level of interest. So they had some minor tweaks they wanted to make to the product to have it be a feasible investment for them, which we made. And then we got on the show. And as far as prepping for that, I'd practiced my pitch in front of friends and family. I took a improv class just to get over my fear of stages, because I hate public speaking.
Okay.
And took lots of videos of myself speaking. Just tried to make my comfort zone a little less insane than it was naturally. And you go there and you practice in front of them. They have to make sure you're not going to pass out on camera before you there and all that good stuff. So
what is that preparation time frame like? Is it like 2 months of preparation? How long did you prepare?
No, you go there on site with a bunch of other people who have segments coming up in the near future, and you have like a day course at QVC where they go over how they work, what's the history, a little bit behind the personalities of the show. You have certain things you fill out as far as forms that you have to be prepared to talk about in this room. And they have judges that kind of assess your ability to handle being in a situation like that. And then afterwards they'll critique and they'll give feedback. And then there's a day 2 where you go back, and it's a not live segment. Like, you're practicing in front of a camera and you have your host there with you, helping you out so you can see exactly what's going to go down. That's like your dry run. After that, you're green lighted or you're not green lighted based on how that goes. And then they give you a date and you show up and you go from there.
And
it's great. If it's not your thing, it's going to be hard. Just practice.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like to me a very, very highly structured sales presentation. Do they actually does QVC buy a bunch of your products beforehand and that's what they're selling and you're basically pitching it? Or is it that, whatever they sell during that time frame, that's what they're going to pay you based on that?
They buy a mass amount, and then that pitch is the kickoff to selling it. And then that ad that you have online for that spot for your product is attached to that video after it goes live. So they'll get like a huge wave of sales based on the live airing. And then they'll just take that recording and attach it to your product with some product images and descriptions, just like any online sales platform.
And the incentive.
Go ahead.
And the incentive for QVC is to always be bringing new products, or like, wouldn't you want to? I would assume that everyone would want to go back on QVC and pitch it again and again because it gives us such a huge boost in sales. Yeah.
And if it does well enough, trust me, they'll have you back on every year. But it didn't do well to get on every year.
Okay. I want to talk briefly about your marketing efforts. So I know that it's a seasonal business. Do you have it must be really clear for you, which dates you want to do your best marketing leading up to that really the holiday and the Christmas season. Can you share a little bit about your, how you get prepared for marketing every year, and what are some of the digital channels and other marketing efforts that you're utilizing?
This is where you're going to slap me. I haven't done, you can give me the digital slap. I haven't done any marketing as far as like Facebook ads and stuff like that, or Google ads or anything like that. What I do for the marketing has been the write-ups and the photos, just tweaking things like that are actually on the sites. And I let the sites that I put it on do the marketing. So Home Depot does its own marketing for the product. Amazon does its own marketing because it's Amazon top choice, and it does like the thing where it recommends your product to go with other things. If you bought this, like you should consider this type of stuff. We could absolutely, it would probably be a good idea to ramp up marketing with our own budget. We just haven't done it. I think part of that is selfishly, I as much as I love working on the project, like I'm a pretty restless creative person. I have other things I'm constantly working on, and the things I'm working on now do take up more of the year. So this thing is in the autopilot realm currently. I do change the packaging. I do change the design. I have a few ideas that we'll be launching in the next year that will change the product itself pretty drastically. But marketing wise, that's kind of where I focus as of this point so far. It's more of physical changes and images and stuff like that.
But as an entrepreneur, do you think that it's enough? Like, do you think that you can leverage Facebook and this product like this would make a really great Facebook ad kind of a thing in that, especially in that holiday season? It's like it could really help you boost the sales.
It could. Yeah, that would probably drive a lot more traffic to our actual website. And out of all the places we sell it, we do really well. But our actual website has the least volume of everything. So yeah, we've in the past just kind of leaned on the systems that we place it in to do a lot of that heavy lifting. But yes, as an entrepreneur, I should be attacking that a little harder. 100%, I should.
What is coming next for Christmas Tree Hugger? Are you adding more products? Are you just continuing to push on this product that you have? What's next for you?
Yeah, we're adding more products. I'm just not comfortable talking about what those will be yet at this point. But next year, there will be at least one other option product-wise out there.
Can you share like one?
To the year after that, I would say.
Okay. Can you share one or two mistakes that you think you made during the whole journey of launching this product as a business, or failures, and what have you learned from that, and what can other entrepreneurs learn from that?
Here's the thing. I could say I've made this one mistake, but 100% honesty wise, I've made a million mistakes on this thing. There's been mistakes every year, and there's been multiple of them. But in retrospect, all the good things that have come in the long run so far have been born from those mistakes. So it's not about like, have I made a mistake? It's I've made many, and I'm proud of them. And I think those mistakes are the reason that I have been successful. I think you should be making mistakes. And if you are, which is a good thing, it's not a bad thing, just make sure you're learning from them.
I guess not everyone has the data and the information to make the perfect decisions all the time. And so it's like you have to try it out, and you have to make the decision, and you have to be, I guess, assess that it's not going to kill your business, and you're going to be able to learn from it.
Exactly. There's a lot of imperfect action that goes behind starting something like this. There's a lot of new businesses that fail, but tell you what, you start a new business and you make a mistake, and it could be a detrimental mistake to that business, but that still doesn't stop you from making another business or learning from that mistake to do something else and pivot down the line that you won't make that mistake again. There's always something to learn from it. There's always somewhere to go from those mistakes, always.
Now we're going to do a rapid fire round where I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them in 1 or 2 words or 1 or 2 sentences. Mm-hmm. So the first one is, do you have any book recommendations for entrepreneurs or business people in 2020, and why?
In 2020, I'm really digging, and his books are good. Donald Miller, he has a book called Building a Story Brand, and he has a class that he teaches called Story Brand Marketing. And I've been fortunate enough to go to that training, which is really fun. But just in general, if you Google Donald Miller and check out his website and sign up for his daily emails of business insights, they are awesome. I mean, some of those 5-minute videos are worth as much as I've gotten from entire books. So I would say for 2020, as far as a year that's changing constantly and where everyone's distracted and crazy and running around like their heads on fire, check out Donald Miller and see if you can get onto that list where he gives you those insights daily. Those are great.
Any innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you're excited about?
One that I use a lot as of recent is Canva.com. And I think for entrepreneurs especially, it is such a good place to find templates and tools and assets for building logos, presentations, packaging, social media ads. Just it's all there. It's all built from you, and it looks fantastic. I'm a designer by trade, and I even go there to get stuff because it just saves so much time and it looks so good. Canva.com. That's like an amazing tool that more and more people are catching on to. Also, there's a site called Skillshare.com, which is a collective hub. Think of it as it's more of like a refined, curated YouTube experience where you can go to learn all different types of softwares and programs and things like that to help build your business and your strategies and things.
A productivity tool or software that either you use or you recommend?
Man, I think I already mentioned it. Those kind of fit that category too. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Grammarly. Grammarly is awesome.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I've been amazed over the last few years how that has streamlined my writing process and made my writing better, and just more confident in sending emails and writing proposals and getting things in front of prospective clients or business partners that just seem more polished and buttoned up. It's a simple tool. It's easy to use. You could almost use it blindfolded, and it just makes your writing sound better, which is huge because it makes a big difference.
Yep. A peer, entrepreneur, or business person who inspires you?
Donald Miller, going back to him, I think he just inspires me because right now he's just so relevant with the speed and the type of content that he's coming out with. And his whole thing is focused around changing your story, your brand's story. And a lot of that needs to happen right now. And people are finding themselves in situations where it's sink or swim, do or die. So I think right now that would be my go-to look up to personality for right now.
Okay. The best business advice that you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I think we touched on it earlier, but like that not being afraid to fail. And I got that from my uncle who has been amazingly successful in his career, but has experienced many failures. Just to give a reference of who he is. So my uncle is the official voice of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh.
And to get to that point, he had to go through a lot of rejections and auditions, and in the course of his career, things that, especially in that field of acting and voice acting, and there's a lot of ups and downs. So hearing a few of his stories have inspired me over the years of like what it takes to push through some of the bad to get to the best things out there in your life.
And finally, do you believe in luck?
Hell no. Yeah, I do. A little bit. I just believe in it's a crazy world with all sorts of combinations, and the more stuff you mix up, the better. There's always going to be that luck factor.
Yeah.
But you can have more luck if you push yourself in a direction that gets you there. Your luck is still going to happen. If you sit on your butt watching Netflix all day, you'll probably have just the tiniest bit of luck. But if you turn off your TV and commit to doing what you're doing, you're going to have more luck. So luck's a funny thing like that.
Yeah. Those were all the questions that I had today, Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing all the different strategies and tactics that you have used to start and grow your business. Now is your time to share your website, how people can get in touch, buy your products. So yeah, it's your time. Please go ahead.
Sure. Website is thechristmastreehugger.com, and we sell the lion's share of our products on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and type in the Christmas Tree Hugger. and it will come up. You'll see it there this season. We got a whole literal boatload on the sea right now coming over. We should have, we'll be fully restocked by October.
Perfect. Thank you so much again, Ryan, for joining us today. Really appreciated your time and all the information that you shared. So thank you so much.
No problem. Happy to do it. Thank you.
Perfect. Bye.